All right, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us for another episode of the Green Circle podcast, coming to you from the beautiful Knoll Furniture Showroom in Liberty Village. Once again, Greenferd Construction built this space about a decade ago to LEED Platinum standards, and I always want to thank the Knoll folks for allowing us to be here. For those who have tuned into past episodes, you know me, but for those who are tuning in for the first time, my name is Scott Ledden, and I will be your host. And today I'm very pleased to be welcoming Chuck Scott, the CEO, Chief Executive Officer of Cushman Wakefield for Canada and Latin America. Welcome to the show, Chuck, and thank you very much for taking the time out of your schedule to join us. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, Scott. Happy to be here.
Really appreciate it. So far leading up to this show, Chuck, a lot of our discussions have centered around COVID and the implications of the COVID crisis. So we are going to obviously touch on that today, but I want to tap in to your specific expertise in terms of management and leadership and inspiring your team. The first thing I want to know is, as Cushman's CEO for Canada and Latin America, you have 5,000 plus employees reporting to you. There's travel restrictions. I'm sure in normal times you are traveling all over the place, visiting your different offices. Now you can't. So during these times of uncertainty and restrictions, I'm just wondering how you manage to lead and manage and inspire your team to, maintain the company's vision and to keep everything moving along.
It's a great question, Scott, and it's true. I mean, just not for me and Cushman and Wakefield, for everyone. I mean, it's such an interesting time and such a major disruption in the world and the way we operate. You're kind of forced to do different things. So first of all, I really appreciate you doing what you're doing here and having this podcast and bringing other people in and exchanging perspectives and whatnot. And congratulations to you.
Oh, thanks very much.
And to Greenferd for doing that. So listen, I mean, from where I sit, it's interesting because it's sort of gone in phases a little bit. As a company, when the pandemic first started, when COVID first started, you kind of got into this phase of it was dealing with a global health pandemic, and so all eyes and all attention was, how do we keep our employees safe?
Right.
How do we keep our customers and their assets safe? It was just all about the safety of our people. It still is, by the way, but that was the real primary focus. So that's what we were doing, and then it expanded and kind of morphed into, all right, this isn't just a health pandemic. This is a global financial pandemic.
An economic crisis.
This is a real economic crisis, and so how do you navigate those waters? And then it's now expanded even beyond that to say, okay, well, there's another side. Right, and we're going to come out the other side of that. So how do you start thinking about recovery readiness and things like that? So as a leader, it's been a real roller coaster sort of ride over the last 4 or 5 months. But I tell you this, and I know this goes for you and anybody else in business. How you show up right now will be remembered.
Absolutely, 100%.
How we show up to our employees, to our families, to our communities, it will be remembered. And it's interesting because these types of disruptions and these types of times, they can really shine a light on strengths of people and an organization, but they can also shine a light on fault lines.
Oh, absolutely.
And cracks that you have in organizations, which whether you think so at the time is a good thing, because it allows you to learn. So for me, I mean, really 3 things I could probably distill it into as a leader. And I'll start by saying I'm definitely not the smartest leader in the room, and I've got
in this room you are.
I've got a ton to learn. But the first, I think, is just to be present. And what you learn really quickly in something like this is not to confuse presence with physical presence.
Okay.
And that your people and the people you work with and the clients you work for, they need you to be present and to be engaged. And so that's why, all of these Zoom calls and Teams calls and things like that have been very, very important. There could kind of be a knee-jerk reaction, especially when you're dealing with issues, is to go into a hole,
right,
and to kind of
hide from it,
or just not really deal with it head on. We have to do the exact opposite, because that's what our constituents want, right? They want to see you. So over communication has been a massive thing. People need to know that there is a steady hand on the wheel, at this time. So being present more so than ever is important. It's a challenge for me, as you noted. I oversee as part Latin America, and I would spend 50 to 75% of my time on the road traveling.
Yeah, I know that.
Across Canada and into Latin America, and when that just stops, it's just a weird place. So you're having to put in all these new sort of mediums and vehicles of reaching people and being present. So it builds a lot of muscle that you maybe didn't have before, and I'm super hopeful lives on as we come out the other side.
Well, it's very interesting you say that, because as much as this has been a terrible situation for the world and globally in business and obviously health, there have been some positive things that have come out of it. And that's, we think, and some of our guests we've had on past shows, we talk about some of the improvements that are actually going to come out of it, using technology more effectively. It doesn't mean it's going to replace the office, but it's going to augment the office experience perhaps. And I think, from your perspective, the same thing you're saying is, yes, it's been terrible, but you've learned some new skills. You've got to practice some new situations that you haven't faced before. And as a leader and as a business person and as a person, you're growing through that process.
Well, it's true. And I mean, you're forced, rightly so, into this place of ideation when you have something like this, because you need to your question, you need to keep people engaged, right? How do you keep people engaged? And you have to find new ways. And in our business too, in the commercial real estate business, when our professionals are so used to bringing people product, transacting and doing things, and when it just kind of stops, you're forced to stay engaged with your clients in other ways, because just like a leader's, people want you to be present, your clients want you to be present, and how you show up to them and organize around them in this time is really important. So, one of the things we've done is just work with our professionals constantly during this time to say, how can we help? How can we help you in your business? How can we give you ideas and give you tools and help you leverage things that we are doing to allow you to stay engaged with your clients? We were, I guess, fortunate, if you want to call it that, because we're a global company and because we're one of the largest property managers in Asia, is we were several months ahead of this.
So you had a little bit of a head start here.
Yeah, so in terms of understanding what this meant, not only to the world, but to our clients, we brought millions and millions of clients back to their workplace. So it allowed us to consolidate all those best practices and get them into a recovery readiness guide that we were able to leverage here in the Americas. And it really put Cushman I'm so proud of Cushman Wakefield. It really put us out on our front foot in talking about recovery readiness. But I bring that up because that was ideation and an arrow in the quiver for our people.
Right.
So they could now stay engaged with their clients. And
I think that gave them that reassurance that we talked about, is people are nervous, people are uncertain when they see the company's leadership coming up with new ideas, communicating those ideas, saying, yes, this has been a challenge, but here's what we're doing about it, and here's how we are going to combat this. It gives them, okay, good, hey, these guys have great ideas, and then it starts to roll out, and then their enthusiasm comes back, and they feel confident, and it's just, all part of that management process.
You're right. And so that being present is a real big thing. The second, that's a good segue, is just being transparent. Nobody has all the answers, and as a leader, I'm very quick to say that. So I don't think that our folks or anybody is really looking for someone to give them absolute certainty.
Well, they would like it, but I think they recognize
it's just not
coming.
there. It's just not there. Yeah. And I think part of the transparency is to say, hey, I don't have all the answers, but this is what I know. And this is what, as a leader, you can count on from me. Again, people want to have that kind of steady hand on the wheel. In our case, too, financial stability is a big thing that's on people's mind.
Of course.
Right? We are a global public company, Cushman Wakefield, large company, and it doesn't matter if you're large, medium, or small, the financial viability of your company is really, really important. So our global CEO, myself, all senior leaders made it a real priority to come out early and give assurance to people inside Cushman Wakefield that we're okay. and that we are in a good financial position and that we can weather this storm. We have to be prudent, just like every other company
Of course.
has to right now, but it's going to be okay. So giving that sort of transparency, I think, was good, and just being honest, kind of being honest about the fact that this is a disruption, and with disruption comes change.
Yep.
And I think just being that transparency and honesty to that there will be change, things will happen, but you know, that's not always a bad thing, right? It's not always a bad thing that this change usually always leads to some new way of doing something. So being present, being transparent, and I think finally is being authentic.
Okay.
And then, you know, you might say that's the same as transparent, but here's what I mean about being authentic as a leader. We should never, ever underestimate the toll that this pandemic is taking on people.
Absolutely.
Right.
And it's
we're humans. We're humans, and so we often talk about work and what's happening and how this affects our workplace. Pull that over to the side of the road. This should never be lost on us, how this is affecting our people and their families mentally, financially, physically, spiritually, beyond work. And the tolls are massive.
There's no doubt. I know you have a family like I do, and you know, it's one thing for us to be saying our work is fine, you know, all those other things, but your kids, your wife, your loved ones are going through this in different ways. You know, socially, you can't do anything, you can't see your friends, you can't do these things. So all of those things play in everybody's mind, and I think your point is a great one. As a leader, you don't only want to reassure people with respect to their business, and I mean, that's obviously a huge part, but work is only one part of someone's life typically, right. And to be a smart enough leader to recognize that in your case and to address the other issues, I think was going to obviously pay huge dividends for you and for Cushman Wakefield in the future. Yeah. When people say they don't just care about my work, they care about me, my family, my loved ones, and things like that. So.
Well, that's right, and I think we call it at Cushman, we call it a culture of high performance. That's really one of the things we strive for. High performance doesn't mean ruthless. In fact,
right.
Just the opposite. What it means is just being the best that you can be to each other, to your families, to your communities, to your clients, you know, all of that. And this is a real opportunity to put that culture on display. And we're focusing on that. And the other thing too is, you know, as a leader, you know, just having this vulnerability and being able to let people know, hey, I'm scared too.
Yeah.
I mean,
you're not immune to this either.
This freaks me out as much as it does anybody else. And I think people want to hear that.
Oh, yeah.
And I think people want to hear that that's okay. That it's actually okay to be tired, and it's okay to have fatigue, and it's okay to get fed up of Zoom calls and things like that. And
want to get back to the office and wish things are back to normal.
Yeah, we're telling people, I mean, you might be, you know, too, Scott, but I mean, we're like, take vacation. Yeah. I mean, vacation's kind of a weird concept right now in this quasi-shelter-in-place environment, but you know, take time. Take time.
And I think that's important too, because a lot of people go, well, it's like vacation, but it really isn't, because you have all these uncertainty. When you say take vacation, I'm assuming you mean put it all aside.
Get off the grid to the extent you can. Yeah. I mean, we all have different abilities to do that, but yeah, you know, just sort of
disconnect and try to go. And
disconnect.
I was fortunate to go up north this weekend, and
nice.
you leave the city and it does change. You kind of forget what's going on. You have a little bit of, you know, pre-COVID normalcy, and you go, oh, that's just so refreshing. And then, you know, you do come back to reality, unfortunately, but it is important, I think, and to take that vacation, even though, you know, you're not at work, you're not on vacation. So it's a different thing.
So, I mean, that's really, so, you know, as a leader, as, you know, someone who runs a company in a really challenging time where anxieties are high, tensions are high, the uncertainty meter is off the chart.
Yeah.
I just find if you can really focus on being present, really focus on being transparent, and really focus on being authentic, you're out of the gates well.
Beautiful. Well, those are 3 great points. I'm sure our listeners would really value those. And now I want to move on to some real estate expertise that I know you possess, and just obviously getting back to our core business, your core business. What do you see as the future of real estate, and how does the office environment fit into that future? I wouldn't say globally, but outside of the GTA for now, and then we'll sort of narrow it down to GTA after that, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure. It's again, you know, great question, obviously, it's on everybody in our industry's mind. And as I was getting ready for this, I jotted down. I thought to myself, you know what? I'm going to tell Scott. Here are sort of some of the questions that I'm getting asked, because I'm doing a lot of speaking and things
I'm
like
sure,
that.
yeah.
And he, so questions like, is the office a thing of the past? Are companies going to take less space? Will there be massive vacancies in the major cities? Will the suburbs win?
Right.
In all of this? Is capital still flowing? Are we seeing COVID discounts and pricing and things like that? So I'm getting all those types of questions, rightfully so.
Well, I've heard them all. I've asked them all. We have discussions about these all the time. So
Yep.
I'm glad that we have you here to give us your opinion.
Well, and it's just that.
Yep.
It's
No,
just
I'm
that.
not,
It's just my opinion. Just speaking as an individual, really, not even, as Cushman, speaking as an individual who's been in the real estate business for 25 years. 12 of those at Cushman. But listen, there's no question that this is a massive disruption to our industry. That's for sure. And any type of disruption really allows us to sort of reimagine and rethink the core pillars of what's going on. I'll start by saying the office is not going away.
I'm so happy to hear you say that.
In my opinion, that's for sure. But how people think about the office and how the office fits into an overall occupancy strategy, and how buildings are built or reimagined to support tenancies of the future, and how transit gets us to all these things are going to be looked at.
So, I'm glad to hear you say. I mean, all of our guests so far have had the same sort of feeling regarding the office. It's not going away. It's going to change. But Jillian Warren, I think it was from Figure 3 in one of our previous episodes, indicated, her feeling, and I think it resonated with a lot of people. The office is a great place for community, culture, and learning.
Yep.
And that's not going to change. You can't get those things from working at home.
Right.
And the technology companies that talk about, well, we could have people work from home because we have that technology. They're the ones who have spent the most time, effort, and money on employee engagement and employee experience in their offices. They recognize how important that is.
Yeah, listen, all that stuff's true, but what's interesting to see, and Google announced it this morning, that they're allowing 200,000 of their employees to not come back to work till July 2021, if ever.
Yep.
And so there's a company that knows a thing or two about culture and how people work. So here's my point of view. My point of view is the office is going to be, its purpose is going to be re-examined, and it's going to be part of an overall workplace ecosystem.
Okay.
If you want to look at it that way. Listen,
a component of this.
Yeah, I think so. Listen, remote working has been a part of, certainly big occupiers, it's been a part of their strategy forever.
Right.
Forever. For many years. I think what's happening now is it's being accelerated, and there's a massive spotlight sort of shining down on that one pillar of an occupancy strategy. And so I think people that really weren't heavily thinking about remote working before, they are now. But what I don't think that's going to do is remove the office. It may, to maybe Jillian's point, it may alter its purpose a little bit. And do companies really go maybe with a hub and spoke mentality and things like that with their offices? Maybe I often get the question, will companies take less space or will they take more space? And I think the bottom line is it's too early to tell that, but I think some will take less space, most will not. I think the reason for that is there's been this massive trend towards densification, right, exactly, over the last several years. And as companies look to reverse that, one theory could be that reverse densification is going to neutralize any gap that's created by having people out of the office.
Yeah,
so
that's
the
what we had
space
discussed.
kind of maybe stays the same. There's a camp that says maybe people take more space, right, because of that reverse densification. So we'll see.
Well, what do you think? Some of our past guests, and we've had great discussions around, it's not, a lot of people were looking at it as a either or. are people going to work from home, or are they going to come back to the office? And there was a debate of which one was going to, what was it going to be? And then we started thinking, it's probably not going to be one or the other. It's going to be one and the other. People want the flexibility to be able to work from home or from a remote location, depending on the activity that they're doing. So I spoke earlier about one of the advantages of COVID, and we talked about the possibility of employees might become actually more productive because they have the flexibility to choose the location or the environment that best suits whatever activity it is that they're doing, which might allow them to optimize their productivity. If they're doing, perhaps responding to an RFP or expenses or some administrative duties, instead of driving downtown for transit downtown for an hour each way, you can work from home and you get it done much quicker, you're more efficient. But if you need to collaborate, then you go downtown. And you are perhaps more focused, you haven't seen your colleagues in a while, you really get some great ideas and that type of thing. So that could be one of the opportunities of things actually getting better than they were pre-COVID. So
yeah, could be. I mean, it's a great point. That is a classic point of something that might come out of this that makes us all better. Here's the thing: it's just so early. Right. It's just so early, and we don't really know. We don't really know. I hear a lot of people talking about productivity and how in many cases it's not impaired, but we have such little data. I mean, we've got, 4 or 5 months of data. Wait till we have a year of data and just see if that productivity is still the same way.
Well, I don't think productivity was a huge focus. I mean, to your point early on, this was a safety issue, a health and safety, like just go and stay safe.
Yep.
I don't think too many employers were calling their employees saying, are you being productive right now? They were just saying, are you safe? Is everything okay? That type of thing. So now people are starting to get concerned a little bit about productivity, but quite frankly, the volume of activity is lower than it has been. So it would be hard to be as productive as you were when the world was pre-COVID. So productivity metrics are going to be a challenge right now. But one thing you had mentioned was it's early, and so nobody really knows. They want to wait. So I have a question for you: is because it's early, are tenants trying to delay making a decision right now and putting it off as much as possible, either renewing for a short term, doing a short term deal to try to buy some time, or is that offset by maybe being able to grab a great deal right now because landlords are nervous, or what are you seeing on that front?
First of all, every client's different, right? And it kind of depends on what sector you're in as a client right now. I mean, you've got certain occupiers, certain tenants that are in sort of high growth sectors right now, and they're interested in growing, expanding, and being strategic. And you have some investors who are opportunistic investors, and some investors who are defensive investors. I mean, I would classify it this way, and this is maybe a good segue into where I think you were wanting to go about, how does the GTA look more specifically in the sort of short, medium, and long term, and specifically in the office. I would classify it this way: if you sort of look at short, medium, and long, you can sort of parallel what the perspective in each, like short term is akin to uncertainty. Medium term is starting to see the evidence of protocols working, and long term is like a vaccine or something where there's more certainty. So it's almost like a certainty scale. Okay. Right? Yeah. And we're at the beginning of that right now. We're in the short term, still uncertain. And so if you were to translate that into how is that coming to life in real estate decisions, I think you're seeing a lot of occupiers, they just don't know what to plan for. Right. So if they were having these big sort of strategic plans, they've maybe been shelved for a little bit. Again, if you're in a hyper growth sector or something where you can take advantage of this, it's a different story. But for the majority of occupiers, they're just uncertain what they need. They're trying to get their head around this remote work and what am I planning for? So if I have a lease expiry event right now, I'm probably doing something short term. Maybe I'm doing a short term renewal. I'm probably not spending a tremendous amount of capital in doing what I'm doing if I'm just a normal business. And if I don't have a lease expiry event, but I was thinking of doing something strategic, I might wait. So I think short term is just going to be, deals and transactions and things that were kind of on the 1 yard line will get done. Things that are triggered to a lease expiry event will get done. Things that have to be done will get done.
Right.
But unless you're an opportunistic player, you're probably doing that at a bare minimum.
Okay.
As you then graduate into sort of the medium term, that is, hey, you know what? People are back to work. It's working. The kitchen to curb to office cycle works. That's the thing. We talk about getting back into the workplace and the safety in the workplace and how that's going to work. That's just one piece of the journey, right? People have to get there.
Oh yeah.
Right. And
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
are they getting comfortable with public transit? And is it working? And are buildings performing well? And elevator queues not crazy to get up to your space? So as that sort of kitchen to curb to office journey gets more evidence that it's working and sentiment gets more comfortable, I think decisions will become a bit more aggressive.
Okay.
And then I think you'll see, hey, yeah, you know what? Maybe I won't wait till the expiry event, or maybe I'll take advantage of an opportunity, or I'm a bit more bullish. Then getting all the way to sort of the long term, which is, hey, we're either just living with this and we're comfortable with that, or we've adapted to that. I doubt we'll ever be comfortable with that, but we've adapted to that, or there's a vaccine or whatever. Then I think it gets back to business as usual. Hey, listen, real estate is still one of the best things to be in, right? The asset class is strong. Here in the GTA, we went into this pandemic with one of the lowest vacancy rates in North America.
Yeah.
So a very, very healthy market. And as you well know, these occupiers enter into long-term leases. So it's very hard to manipulate those. The question will be, how will new development look? Will there be vacancies? In the people that are going to occupy these new towers, they're moving from somewhere.
Yeah. Who's
Is that space going to get absorbed?
Right.
We still think it will. We still think that the environment will be strong, but it's just so uncertain right now, and there's just not a lot of comparables. And when you look at, we're talking about leases, but when you look at the capital market side of the real estate business, it's also very interesting. You've got, a good amount of people out there with some dry powder that they want to or need to deploy.
Yeah.
And you still have a limited supply of product, but it's interesting. You've got this kind of standoff in a way, because you've got buyers who want to buy at a COVID discount,
Yeah.
and you've got sellers who don't want to sell
At a COVID
at
discount.
a COVID discount. So you have a little bit of a standoff going there. But hey, in general, it's just such a strong industry, great fundamentals. The GTA is a strong market. It's been disrupted, no doubt about it. But we're coming out the other side.
Well, I really want to thank you, Chuck, for your time and your insights. It was terrific to learn and to hear what you folks are telling your customers and your clients, and really appreciate your time. And I just want to thank you for coming on the Green Circle podcast.
My pleasure. Congrats to what you're doing.
Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thank you.